There's a burgeoning field in ecology known as urban ecology, which focuses on wildlife essentially living in urban environments. And it turns out there's actually quite a lot of it. And there's this old notion of humans and nature being like these separate things. And the old model of biodiversity conservation or nature conservation indeed focused on separating the two. Like you got a protected area, that's where all the nature is, and everywhere else is where all the people are. And it turns out that model doesn't work that well. Humans are much more integrated with nature, even in the modern age. And there's a lot of wildlife that lives in suburban and urban areas and indeed thrives there. And I would encourage you to notice that sort of wildlife around your own home. And a lot of it might be quite small, so you might have to look somewhat closely. But I thought I'd show some of what I have around my own place. I've mentioned before that my cottage is the walls are full of little jumping spiders, my favorite taxon, Salticidae. Adorable little creatures. Among them are these quite unique ant mimic spiders, which I'm particularly fond of. And pretty much any house or building that I've examined, I found a little jumping spider or something like it crawling on the walls. So they're around. There's also a notion that many folks have of insects as pests, as something that you kind of want to keep out of your property or out of your home. And you may want to keep them out of the inside of your home. That's fair enough. I personally don't mind a few little cellar spiders hanging up in the corners of the room because they eat mosquitoes and they just don't do any harm, and I kind of like them. They make for good company, though not great conversation. But a lot of predators, in fact most, pose no danger to people, but they actually control things that might be pesky, like mosquitoes and house flies and stuff like that. Things that might actively irritate you. The the dominance of of a particular species acting as a pest, for instance, in a garden or in agriculture, is typically related to a lack of diversity. So when you have a complex ecosystem with a replete food web, one individual species can't really get a great foothold to just dominate because something else is going to take it out before that happens, and it's going to be in competition with other things that might utilize the same resource as it. So the while in nature you do get like sort of booms and busts of certain species, it is frequently a artifact of sort of human destruction of ecosystems. So yeah, that's a little plug for diversity around the home. This is a little cupboard on my desk where I don't really keep much, but one of the things I keep in this cupboard is this little paper wasp nest. People tend to be kind of afraid of wasps because of the sting, and indeed most of them do sting, or many of them rather, maybe not most. These ones aren't very aggressive. I've been stung by one once. It wasn't too bad. It was kind of more mild than a bee, actually. But let's see if I can catch all the ones on top. Snoozing in there. They just go around during the day and forage for little critters, whatever they eat, which they bring back and feed to their larvae, and they just really don't cause any trouble. And I quite like having them around. Adds a bit of life to the place. They're quite lovely little creatures, those paper wasps. They chew up plant fibers and form it into those paper nests in which they raise their young. And they, I believe, have a queen in those small colonies. And they'll catch little caterpillars from your garden. They're important pollinators. They do a lot of flower visitation. And they reproduce, and then once they're finished, they abandon the nest. And the males die off, the females will overwinter in some sheltered place and then they reproduce again the next year. At least that's what my insect field guide says. These ones kind of seem to be lasting the winter in their nests or on top of them. I don't know. A lot of different wasps out there. They probably have slightly different strategies. Who can say? Who can say for sure? The wasps, I find, don't read the insect field guide, so they don't know what they're supposed to do. They just do it. The wasps. Let's just get this right. Let me get these facts straight. Don't want to spread misinformation. There's plenty of that going around as it is. Let's see. Paper wasps, subfamily Polystonae. Blah, blah, blah. The nests are abandoned. The nests are abandoned at the end of the season after males and reproductive females are produced. Fertilized females overwinter in sheltered places, founding new colonies in spring. Their female offspring becoming workers. Alright, so maybe that's what we're seeing. Sheltering fertilized females. I must say I haven't seen them foraging much. When I first arrived in this place, I would see them every day out in big mobs, hunting for caterpillars and carrying them off. But lately they seem to be pretty dormant. So that makes sense. The wasps. Fascinating creatures, wasps.